Sunday's the fifth Sunday in Lent, the Sunday before Palm Sunday. The Gospel story is about a certain man who was ill, Lazarus, from Bethany, the village of Martha and Mary. Mary was the one who anointed Jesus with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. It was her brother Lazarus who was sick. The sisters sent word to Jesus saying, "Lord, the one you love is ill." When Jesus heard this, he said, "This illness will not lead to death, but to the glory of God, for the Son of God will be glorified through it." And although Jesus loved Martha and her sister Mary and Lazarus, he stayed in the place where he was for 2 more days. And when he arrived, Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany is close to Jerusalem, about 2 miles away, and many Jews had come to the sisters to console them about the death of their brother Lazarus. And when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, and she said to him, "Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, it will be done for you." And Jesus said, "Your brother will rise again." She said, "I know he will rise again at the resurrection on the last day." And Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life. Everyone who believes in me, even if they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" And Martha said, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is coming into the world." After she said this, she went back home, and she called Mary and said to her confidentially, the teacher is calling you." So Mary got up and quickly and left and went out, and Jesus was still at the place where he had met Martha. He hadn't yet arrived in the village. And when the others in the house saw Mary get up quickly and go out, they followed her. They thought that she was going to the tomb to weep there. And when Mary came to the place where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." And Jesus said to her, "Where have you laid him?" And when he saw Mary and the others who were with her weeping, he was deeply moved and greatly agitated in his spirit. He shuddered. And they said, "Come and see." Jesus began to weep. Some Jews said, "See how he loved him." Others said, "If he could open the eyes of a blind man, you'd think he could have kept this man from dying." When Jesus, still deeply agitated, came to the tomb, there was a cave and there was a stone in front of it, and he said, "Take the stone away." And Martha said, "Look, there's already a stench. He's been in the tomb for 4 days." And Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. And Jesus looked up and said, "I thank you, Father, for you have heard me. I know that you hear me, but I say this for the sake of the crowd standing around, that they also may believe that I have come from you." And then in a loud voice he cried out, "Lazarus, come out." And the dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, and his head covered in a cloth. And Jesus said, "Unbind him and let him go." And many of the Jews who'd come out with Martha and Mary believed in Jesus when they saw what he'd done. I can't help thinking when I think about this story. Do you remember the picture of the Japanese man when they had the tsunami, and he was outside the place where his mother lived, and he was just utterly grief-stricken because he wasn't able to do anything to help his mother. And it's a similar situation here. These sisters utterly grief-stricken and unable to prevent the death of their beloved brother, the one whom Jesus loved too. And I think that there are these situations where the light does go out. There's just we can be overwhelmed by the utter devastation, separation, of loss, of death that is death, and it's as if we're taken into the bowels of the earth and of loss and separation and grief, and we can feel Jesus too shuddered at this himself. But he doesn't. He goes to the place right there where, and he and not just the place, but he rolls back the stone. Not just the place, but where the stench is, and speaks, calls him out of that place, and asks those around to set him free, unbind him. It's just such a powerful image of the power of God at work when our human resources have failed. And he asks Martha, who says, she sort of says, theoretically, I believe, whatever you ask of God, he will do for you. And then when he puts the question to you, I am the resurrection and the life. Do you believe this, even though you die? So this is a story that precedes Holy Week and his death and resurrection, and reminds us that we are utterly in God's hands, utterly dependent upon his word to call us out and set us free.